right, the lawyers are present. The defendant is present. Ms. Petty, whenever you're ready, you may go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Thank you. I heavily debated coming to court today to speak for a few reasons. I feel betrayed by our justice system. I've put myself in a very vulnerable position by coming in and sharing about my pain, which I'm very private about, and telling everybody how much I have suffered, which I tried to put aside to honor Elena's memory, and I feel it ended up accomplishing nothing here. My main reason, though, for not wanting to speak was that I didn't want to give you the opportunity to enjoy more of our family's suffering, which you've admitted that you wanted to see. This entire ordeal has pushed me to my emotional, physical, and mental limits. It will continue to do so for the rest of my life, even more so now that he has escaped being punished to the fullest extent of the law, as I believe he should have been, knowing he gets to live out the rest of his natural life, something Elena doesn't get to do because of his disgusting and violent actions on February 14th, 2018. He has escaped this punishment because a minority of the jury was given the power to overturn the majority made by people who were able to see him for what he is, a remorseless monster who deserves no mercy. He has admitted to knowing what he did and described it in horrific detail. A person has to be incredibly sick to want to hurt another human being, even sicker to dwell there and craft a plan, and unimaginably evil to execute that plan, which didn't just hurt people, but to add insult to murder, he was even arrogant enough to plan a disguise, believing that he would be able to escape his actions, as my sister lay dying on a classroom floor, unable to escape his bullets. This incredible darkness that he has within him, which has been labeled here as mental illness, is something that should be considered unacceptable and intolerable. Yet, in this court, we have shown the world that if one stretches the truth, they can get away with not only murder, but mass murder. Every single sick, twisted little freak hiding in their room, searching up things on the internet like mass shooter hype videos of mass shootings, police response times, etc., will now look at this case and say to themselves, all I have to do is claim mental illness and I can get away with it. An incredibly dangerous and ridiculous precedent that has been set here will affect the lives of children across the nation. The defendant and I are the same age, and I can say for a fact that at the time he murdered Elena, he was old enough and mentally aware enough to understand the permanence of death, what that meant. He understood how much it hurt from his own personal experiences. And he fully understood what the consequences would be for murdering someone, yet he chose to do it anyway. I could sit here and complain, as he has, that I've had a hard life. I was bullied in school. I've lost 15 family members and loved ones since I turned 9, to sickness, suicide, accident, and now murder. Not once have I ever turned to hurting others as a solution to make me feel better, because I'm not a coward and I'm not weak. However, after witnessing these proceedings, it appears to me that we coddle, protect, and even reward weakness and in a person. I have tried to turn the other cheek so many times and stay strong throughout everything related to this case afterwards, so much so that I feel that my cheeks are bleeding. But I'm still here trying to do the right thing and stick up for her memory. I have relived Elena's murder in this courtroom. No one that's up here right now can imagine what it's like to have a little sister murdered. And you cannot begin to, understand the depth of pain that it is to relive it in a very public setting, surrounded by strangers. I have heard the gunshots that killed her through the speakers in here. I have listened to the medical examiner gunshot wounds on my 14-year-old baby sister. Sorry, I can't see. I gave a victim impact statement earlier in this trial in an attempt to follow the law and represent my sister's memory, all that's left of her, only to be met with myself, my family, and 16 other families of the defendant's murder victims being accused of only trying to attend looking for revenge. Not once have I petitioned the court to allow me to kill him myself. We are all here to seek justice. I am painfully aware that sentencing him to death will not bring her back, and I am the only one that has to go home and live with that forever. But what we've been told here is that 17 lives are worth nothing if you can make enough excuses for your actions. He has gotten everything he's wanted in this case, save 3 more victims, because as he stated, his goal was to take the lives of 20 innocent people. And we are left with nothing and a slap in the face to top it off. Elena was unable to protect herself from his bullets in that classroom, and this court has failed to protect her posthumous rights, her memory, and her family. I believe that who you are as a human being is, 1, how you treat other people. He showed no kindness, no mercy, no remorse while murdering Elena. He shot 139 rounds of ammunition in that building. He had 138 opportunities after his first bullet to stop. He could have stopped after the first classroom, after the first magazine, after the first floor, but he chose to keep firing, to climb multiple staircases, and to continue his rampage because he was enjoying hurting other defenseless and frightened human beings. He shot Elena through the heart. Why? Because she didn't pick a good enough hiding spot? Because she wasn't able to escape his line of fire fast enough in a moment of intense fear? He shot her multiple times as he did every other victim to make sure that she was dead. That is how he treats other people. Another thing that shows who you are as a human being is your actions when you are struggling. I understand that he believes his life has been hard. I don't think a single person in this courtroom today can say they have had an easy life, yet the rest of us keep trying to do our best, and he believes that he is above that charge. He chose to turn to violence to solve his problems, and is now being protected from the same punishment he needlessly inflicted on my sister because he's too scared to receive what he exuberantly dished out. The first major event of my adult life was when I was 19, when my sister was shot to death. And now my early 20s are ending with being told that no justice will be done in her memory. That she died, but it doesn't matter because his life wasn't cupcakes, rainbows, and sunshine. He gets daily meals, a roof over his head, and a bed to sleep in now. My sister's body is food for carrion. Her roof is 6 feet of dirt, and her bed is a coffin. She died scared. She tried to hide behind a desk, and he shot her multiple times, as I said, with one of the bullets hitting her in the heart. She died alone on a dirty classroom floor, and whether she suffered for 1 second, 1 minute, or longer, although I can't imagine she lived very long after a bullet tore through her heart, she had no chance of being rescued or saved, and he made sure of that. The building which you all have walked through is where her last breath, her screams of pain, and her blood have rotted away for years. I will never get to say goodbye to her. I will never get to look at her face again or crack jokes with her. The last time I saw her sweet face was when she was lifeless and cold, laying in a coffin. If I want to visit her or talk to her, I have to drive to a cemetery and talk to a plaque with her name on it. He is going to have the ability to see his family and call them. I get to spend the first half of every visit I make to her grave for the rest of my life trying to avoid thinking about how her body is beneath my feet and wondering if I'll see her in another life. Elena will never grow up. He stopped her at 14. She's never going to go to college, get a job, get married, meet any of her nieces or nephews, have kids, or even breathe again. But he'll be able to draw a breath, and he has for the past 4.5 years that she has not. And he will get to continue to do so into old age. I believe that one who robs another human being, let alone 17 of them, of their power over their own life and the right to live out their natural lives, getting to keep both of those privileges is not an example of justice. Thank you.
Megan, I am deeply sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ms. Petty. Is there anyone in the Zoom waiting room, or can we continue?
Nope, we don't have anyone. Thank you.
Mr. Max Schachter.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Please, when you're ready, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Thank you, sir. You can put your hand down, and please state your full name for the record.
Max Schachter.
Thank you. State whenever you're ready.
Mr. Schachter, would you like to say something on behalf of your son Alex today?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Judge, thank you for your kindness to our families. And thank you for taking this trial so seriously. There's nothing more important to my family than receiving justice for Alex. I'd like to start about with the victim impact statement that Karen and I gave earlier. It was really difficult. My wife and I tried to verbalize the pain that we feel every day, knowing that Alex is never coming home, and he was taken from us in such a horrible, horrible manner. The other very upsetting part of the victim impact statement was the restrictions that were placed on our statement. We were prohibited from talking about the murderer, the crime, and the punishment that he deserves. We wanted that creature to receive. To add insult to injury, the Florida state law instructed you to tell the jury to completely disregard everything that we had just said. It's not right, and I will work to fix this injustice for the next family. Both juror Melody Vinoy and Mr. Johnson said that the law failed the families, and I agree with them. I just rewatched the defense's closing argument, and one thing that really stuck out at me was their insistence that the jury that the murder had slipped through the cracks. The defense knows that that is a lie. They know Sheriff Bob Galtieri, the chair of the MSD Commission, had said that he had never seen an individual that has received more mental health services than the Parkland murderer. But in closing arguments, you reiterated over and over again that he didn't get the proper services throughout childhood. Let's look at the facts and see if that was actually true. Dr. Kravitz, his psychologist when he was 8 years old, spent 15 sessions with him over 13 months. Then from 2005 to 2007, at Coral Springs Elementary, he received direct language therapy multiple times per week, counseling weekly. Caridad Harvey, another witness that mental health counselor from Henderson Behavioral Health, spent 7 sessions with him from 2009 through December of that year. And in 2011, he received more direct language therapy once a week and counseling once a week. At Westglades, he received ESE services for academics and social development with more pull-out language therapy and counseling. Dr. Karpf, his second psychiatrist, treated for him for the next 3.5 years. And she had him on multiple medications from Strattera to Focalin to Rebuttal. But then former public defender Howard Finkelstein of Broward County said that, quote, "We let one of our children fall off the grid." That wasn't true. This individual didn't fall off the grid. He was the grid. He was getting every service that they offered. Services continued. Camelot conducted 27 home visits between 2013 and 2014. Then he received more services from Henderson. From their time with him, they turned over 700 pages for this trial. 700 pages of. He received weekly therapy sessions between 2014 and 2015 that totaled hundreds of hours of therapy. Does that sound like somebody that fell off the grid? Finkelstein? Jessica Flournoy testified from Westglades Middle School. She was the admissions counselor in 2015. She said he was in group sessions for 2.5 months, and then they moved him to individual sessions. During the 2014-15 school year, when he was in 9th grade, he made a lot of progress, we heard, with therapy at home and in school. And he only had 2 absences that year and a GPA of 3.14. A parent advocate then also met with Linda an additional 47 times. During the 15-16 school year, when he was in grade 10, he received language therapy again once a week and counseling once a week. In addition, he was receiving counseling provided not only by the school but also by Henderson. Then Dr. Nagin, his next psychiatrist, treated him for the next 5 years up until right before the shooting. But Gordon Weeks, the chief Broward public defender, fell off the cracks. But we have to save him now. The defense in their closing argument said that if he had just had the proper diagnosis, that things would. How? His therapists were treating his behavior and his symptoms. Nothing would have changed. Would they have changed his medicine? No. He was on medicine after medicine over the 15 years. He's on medicine now, and he still wants to kill. She said he needed to be properly diagnosed so that he could receive the proper programs and services and accommodations and interventions. He got all of those. Altogether, he had well over 200 individual sessions with mental health professionals. Does that sound like somebody that fell off the grid? They tried everything. They couldn't have given him more services. Over the course of his life, starting at a very young age, he received more than most kids in America will ever receive. It's irresponsible for you to make a statement that is an outright lie. You're making the mental health crisis in America worse by misrepresenting what actually happened to the Parkland murderer. Just so you can receive fame and notoriety and go on a book tour? There are so many people that really need mental health services and did not get them. But that's not the case with the Parkland murderer. His psychiatrists, his psychologists, counselors, ESE teachers, all testified to that effect. He was on medication for most of his life. The problem was that he didn't receive, not that he didn't receive services or medication. The problem was that none of it worked. Prior to the trial, I had a lot of hate and anger in my heart for his mother. Today is the anniversary of your mommy's death, isn't it? She who bought him his first gun. But after learning more details of her life, living with that animal, during the trial, I understood how much she tried to do for the murderer. There are kids in foster care with no families, kids in abusive homes, and kids living with drug-addicted parents. But that's not the situation. He lived in a loving home. Linda Cruz loved him and tried to help him for the 18 years she was with him. She continued and she never gave up. She took him to doctor after doctor, tried medication after medication. God only knows how much money she spent. Of course there are going to be breaks. No one can be 100% consistent for 18 years, especially when nothing seemed to work. Dealing with those two monsters was emotionally and physically exhausting. But she was pretty consistent between the ages of 3 and 18. When some things aren't working, you stop. And she did, but then she went right back. All the way up through her death. She never gave up on him. You said that the Camelot counselor
domestic. And to the defendant, that's exactly what I view you as. A domestic terrorist. And everyone that does these heinous acts like you. Because, again, as I said, as I stood and stared off the coast of Iran and defended everyone in this country through my service, I thought I was the one in danger. But it was my family being slain back home. I wish no peace for you. I wish nothing but pain. And I hope that every breath you take, you remember that that's a breath you stole. You stole Chris from us, but we will honor his memory every single day. So in a sense, you also gave us at least that gift. There's a lot more I wish I could say, but I can't even look at you right now. Thank you, Your Honor.
Don't ever think of yourself, please. People handle things in different. You're a hero, and you have a beautiful family. You all have made such an impression on this court, and I wish you the absolute best. You are very strong, very good people, and you've made a lot on everyone, truly. And I
Thank you, Your Honor.
I don't think anyone's waiting, so if you want to go ahead and call your next witness.
Miss Megan Petty.
Hi, Megan. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can put your hand down.
He's laughing at her. He then goes and draws 666 on his cell wall with his hemorrhoid blood and draws pictures of guns and writes how he would like to kill more people and murder more people. Her naivete shows that she is a fool. She should know better after her son was murdered in Sandy Hook. I'm sure she's not watched the trial. But if she did, she would know that his mother loved him very much. He didn't have an abusive home life. There are children out there being tortured and raped and don't receive any love. But this was not the case. The Parkland murderer did have love in his life. He even had a girlfriend. But you can't fix evil. It is such a disservice to people that are struggling with mental illness to use that as a mitigator for what he did. There's so many people in this country that suffer from mental illness. They're not going out torturing and murdering people. You mentioned he's got brain damage? Really? Where's his brain damage? In what area? To say that is insulting to people that from brain damage. He walks. He talks. He can converse. He can hold a job. He's a better shot than most people. There's no brain damage here. And it's insulting to people that truly have it. He did it all. He held a job all by himself. This murder was well thought out, researched. He knew exactly what he was doing was wrong. He got enjoyment out of it and watching people suffer. He studied doing this for years, even long before she passed away. He wanted to do this. He wanted to kill people. This was an act of pure evil. Society tried for almost 2 decades to try to rehabilitate him. More mental health treatment than anyone. Henderson was at his house for hours a day. Hours a day. But he fell off the grid, right? They tried to get him off his pathway to violence, but nobody was successful. This wasn't somebody that fell through the cracks, and you know it, or got lost in the system. They tried, but they could not change his determination to inflict pain upon everything they touched, whether it was animal or human. He is a sociopath that does not deserve to live amongst us. This creature, that creature, has no redeemable value. And the other prisoners that you will encounter in your new life will inflict that pain upon you, hopefully 17 times over again, until you're screaming for mercy, just like your victims. You mentioned that life in prison is punishment for him. He wanted life in prison from the beginning. How's that punishment? He's been fighting the prosecution and the families for the last 5 years because he doesn't want to die. He's scared to die. He had a well-thought-out strategy to wear his school ROTC shirt that day so he could escape with the rest of the kids running for their lives. Punishment is something the individual doesn't want. In prison, he gets to receive phone calls of fan mail. He gets to fall in love and get married. He gets a tablet to email and text people. He gets to receive visitors. He gets to watch TV, read books, draw, and write about killing again, and even get a college degree. How is that punishment? He has never had anyone punish him before. He received 77 disciplinary school alone because he was a menace in the classroom and never had any consequences. How is giving him what he wants, again, punishment? It's not. It's ironic. The anniversary of your mother's death is the same day as my birthday. Today's my birthday. Just know, I want you to know, that every November 1st, I will be celebrating my birthday while you are in prison. And every November 1st, I will be blowing out my birthday candles. And you know what my wish will be? That you suffer a painful, violent death. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Schachter.
We don't have anyone in the waiting room. You can go ahead and continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state would call Mrs. Ann Ramsey. Excuse me, Your Honor, I was told that she was here.
That's okay.
that the victims' families are entitled to feel however they want to feel and are allowed to say whatever it is they want to say. But in the court of law, it is the court's responsibility to maintain the administration of justice. And you know the parameters of a sentencing hearing. The state knows the parameters of a sentencing hearing. I have spoken in email to Mrs. McCann. Mr. Weeks has spoken to the Chief Judge Tudor. And we have also spoken to Mr. Pryor in an effort to prevent this from happening. I did my job, and every member of this team did their job, Judge. And we should not personally be attacked for that, nor should our children. And I'm asking this court, as the administrator of justice, please ask the victims' families like I asked the state attorney's office to do. They know that this is improper. They know this. They know that attacking defense counsel, attacking the judicial system is not permissible. And it sends a message to this community that if you sit as a juror and the verdict you're not in agreement with, that you will be chastised and you will be degraded. Our system of justice is designed the way that it was administered in this courtroom. If he would have gotten death, we would not have said one single word about that, and we would have respected the jury's verdict. This is our system of government, Judge, and Your Honor should be maintaining the decorum in this courtroom to prevent these families from attacking our children and from attacking us personally when all we were appointed.
Dave, do you want to?
Your Honor, before we call our next witness, I would like to put something on the record, if I may be allowed, Your Honor.
Okay.
And it is important. The defendant, has taken the lives of these people's family members, their children, their husbands, their sons. And now the defense attorneys want to take the voice of the survivors, the victims, and curtail their rights under Florida law, specifically 941.143, the Florida Constitution, Section 16B, Article 1, which gives a right, Your Honor, to express themselves and be heard. They're also trying to curtail the victim's rights to speak under Chapter 960. And Ms. McNeil is right. She did reach out to me, and she did ask that we ask the victims not to speak about the verdict, about the case, but under 941.143, each and every one of these victims here today was apprised under the law by our office, which we had a duty to do, that statements, whether oral or written, shall relate to the facts of the case and the extent of any harm, including social, psychological, or physical harm, financial losses, loss of earnings directly from the crime for which the defendant is being sentenced, and any matter relevant to an appropriate disposition and sentence. What these victims are here to talk about today, Your Honor, is an appropriate disposition and sentence. The defense cannot try and impose prior restraint on these victims who have every right to be here and exercise their freedom of speech under the First Amendment, under the Florida Constitution, and under Florida law, Chapter 943 and Chapter 960. And these victims have every right to express themselves. They were muzzled, they were curtailed under victim impact because they knew the instructions and they followed them to a T. And the defense knows that the state worked with the defense to make sure that everything on victim impact was admissible. There were no objections, and the record will bear that out. And Ms. McNeil knows that she and I met to make sure that victim impact was absolutely perfect under the law. And these victims now have a chance and a right to come in here what they're allowed to say and what they're legally allowed to say. What the defense is doing is illegal to try and curtail these victims under the law, and it's unconscionable. These victims have a right to express themselves. I have not gone over what their statements are, because under the law, under Chapter 960, they don't have to tell me what they're going to say. They can ask me if they need guidance, and I will provide it to them. But they have a right to address this court. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, State, you can go ahead and call your next witness.
I just need to say that the defense is not attempting to curtail the limits of the sentencing proceeding or the rights that the victims' families have. We are not trying to do that. The attorney's office knows that what is happening here is beyond what the victims' families are constitutionally protected to do. You can say whatever you want. You can attack him and say whatever you want. But your honor knows that what is happening is not permissible.
Ms. McNeil, stop suggesting that I know that something is impermissible and that I am allowing it to happen. You're finished. I've heard your objection. It's noted. State, go ahead and call Ms. Ramsey.
Ms. Ramsey.
Right, ma'am.
Ms. Ramsey, right here.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning.
Are both of you making a statement?
No, just
Okay. Ma'am, will you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You can put your hand down and please state your full name for the record.
Anne Marie Ramsey.
It's nice to see you again.
Thank you. Too.
Ms. Would you like to say something on behalf of your daughter, Helena?
I would. Thank you.
Please do.
When the trial started, I wasn't whether the murderer should get the death penalty or life. But after listening to all of the details, it was most certainly, for me, the death penalty. You are pure evil. On Tuesday, the 13th of February, 2018, I shared my last meal with Helena. She was radiant. And do you know what she said to me? She said, "Thank you, Mummy. Delicious, Mummy. Thank you. Thank you." Her praise was superfluous. It was as though it was a lifetime of that she was saying to me that evening. And yes, dinner was exceptionally good. It was really good. So I can only say thank you to God above, because my angel was going to be put to sleep. That's all I can say. Helena was part of the first priority club at Douglas. So she was a lovely girl. She was an angel to me. How many children say thank you these days to their parents? How many kids said thank you to their parents last night? How many kids do that these days? Did you thank your mother? Did you thank your mother, the murderer, for pulling you out of what could have been a life of poverty, a sordid life? No, you beat on your mother. You beat her. Before Helen's dad left for work, she would always say, "Bye, Daddy. Love you, Daddy." In the morning she left for school, she said, "Bye, Mummy. Love you." And she skipped off. And my last text from Helena was a smiley face. Just one of those smiley faces because I had given her a cookie from Target stores. We love Target. It was a soft fondant cookie. It was huge and it had just the heart, just like the emoji that she sent me. That was her acknowledgement to me. That was her love thrown back to me, saying, "Thank you, Mum. Thank you for throwing that in there on Valentine's Day. That was the last that I received from my daughter. And this is what I have to say about the Broward school system. Helena, this is a repeat for what I said before. As Helena's mother, I was most impressed by her wisdom and her strength of character. As a young girl, she received a perfect score in her end-of-year math test, and she was told by her teacher, you'll be in the gifted class the following year. And funnily enough, the teacher was Asian, from the continent of India, Pakistan. And she said, you were a wonderful student, excellent results, and you will be in the gifted class for the next academic year. However, the following academic year, Helena came home and she complained, I'm not in the gifted class, Mummy. So I told her, we'll go and find out. So we had a meeting, a conference with the principal, and there was no logical reason given. The principal said, she could have got a fluke on her test, or perhaps you've even sort of cheated by guiding her towards, I don't know what her reasons were. There was no logical reason from the principal. The following year, Helena stepped up and achieved another perfect score. So I was surprised, and I just celebrated with her, gave her a cupcake. Fantastic work, Helena, I said. So we went to the conference, and on the way out, we met one of her friends and the mothers, and she was ecstatic. Her daughter had done well. Not 100% on the test, but a great score. And when I went into the conference, I waited to hear what the teacher had to say. And she never mentioned it. So when Helena came out, she said, Mummy, what did the teacher say? What did the teacher say? Because that was Helena. She loved to step it up. If you tried to knock her down, she would step it up. Yes, a girl at that young age. And I said, the teacher didn't mention it, Helena. The teacher didn't mention your excellent results. So I promised Helena, I said, I'll take care of you, because my job is to make sure that you're an all-rounder. You're beautiful on the outside and you're beautiful on the inside, and you do the best to the best of your ability. And I could see that she was immersed in a school system that did not want to promote well-behaved, hard-working, conscientious, black, brown, or biracial children. And Helena, she gained her rightful spot in the gifted class. But then she surprised me again. She said, after only a few weeks of being in this class, Mum, this is not the gifted class. This is not. The children don't understand. The children just talk. The children are popular kids. It's not the gifted class. And this perplexed me, because growing up in England, we were always encouraged to do our best. In fact, there were many children from our school, many successful, and many from many different backgrounds. And one was the incredibly talented Sir David Ajajaye, who graduated from the very same high school that I attended. He is the lead design architect of the African American Museum in Washington, D.C. Just imagine the loss if his spirit was crushed when I went to school. Our teachers encouraged us. Doesn't matter what race, what class, we were just encouraged to do our best and encouraged to shine. And Helena and I visited that museum, and Helena declared, "So much to see. We must return to the museum to see it all." And sadly, this will never happen. Never happen. And then this statement was, let's see if there's anything else. Yeah. So now I'll move on to the Broward Sheriff's Office. And Vincent Ramsey pretty much said the first part. I lost Helena today. And we should have been out, celebrating, laughing, enjoying dinner, just doing the usual birthday celebrations. And we spent